and on this channel I make a lot of videos about homeschool. We like to make videos about homeschool general advice and tips and lifestyle, but also we like to talk about curriculum. If you are a homeschool mom who likes to just have curriculum chats and you have to come on YouTube to do it because your kids are not all that interested in talking about curriculum with you, well then you found the right place. I've been asked for a while to make a video on writing with ease, and so I've got two different books here to show you today. I'm going to take you on a look inside these books, talk about what they can be good for, what you should know about the differences between these two books, and kind of just share some tips on how to use it, maybe what they're not so good for. And yeah, let's get started. Now, if you do like to talk about curriculum, I highly recommend that you head right down below this video and click the subscribe button, because you're gonna like it. You're gonna like this channel because we talk about books and curriculum a lot. So this is what we're sharing with you today: Writing with Ease, the Complete Writer, and Writing with Ease Workbook Level 1. I wanted to share these with you side by side because I've found that parents can actually end up getting a little bit confused as to the differences between these two, and our family was also confused when we first started using these. Do you need both? What's going on? What's the difference right here? So I wanted to share with you side by side so you can tell exactly what they are. Writing with Ease, the Complete Writer, is a guide to 4 years of writing instruction under this style, which is by Susan Wise Bauer. This is also by the same person, but this is a 1-year workbook. There are workbooks for all 4 levels, and it includes instructions for every day, every week of the year, and it also includes worksheets. So that's the first difference. This is 1 year, this is 4 years. This includes everything you need to implement the study just as is. This is 100% open and go. This is not. In this book, you will find a lot of description of the stages of writing instruction and development, a lot of the theory, and then you'll get to year 1, which could be first grade or whenever you're deciding to start with any kind of formal writing, copywork, narration for your child. And then they're going to give you exactly a script for weeks 1 through 3. A script of what to do for weeks 1 through 3. Okay, that's great. I have a script. No prep, nothing. And then, then we get to here, weeks 5 through 10. All it tells you is, okay, keep following the same pattern and just do your own thing. Choose passages from your own books, which I need to explain how they do it. But I wanted you to know right from the beginning that this is the book that's going to guide you on making your own kind of writing curriculum based on books that you are reading, based on whatever read alouds you are choosing to read to your child. But it's not going to give you exactly what you should be doing or what passage to read or what sentences to use for copywork. Now, is it that hard to just choose a passage to read or choose a sentence for copywork? No, I mean, it's obviously not. But I would say that this is what we've experienced is this is a lot easier to use and to make sure it actually happens on a daily basis, because of the fact that you can simply just pick up this book and do it rather than do any prep work. Now, I would say that honestly you could hardly call it prep, because once you get in the hang of this, you could pretty much do it without even prepping. You can just literally just pick up the book that you're reading for today, whatever read aloud you're doing, read a page or two of it, portion of a chapter, pick out a copywork sentence from it. They do give like kind of specific directions of, okay, weeks 5 through 6 should have proper names of people in your copywork sentences. Weeks 7 through 8 should have proper names of cities. And I think this kind of thing is what can make it start to seem a little bit overwhelming, or like, oh man, I need to prep and find a sentence with the proper names of states in the book I'm reading, which that might be kind of hard. So it kind of depends, I guess, if you're paying all that much attention to this exact schedule, or if you're kind of like, I'm just going to take the general idea of copywork and narration and just apply it to whatever books I'm reading. In which case, once you kind of get that idea, if you just do that, choose different kinds of sentences featuring different grammatical patterns, different punctuation, different capitalization, you could pretty much get the same effect on a DIY level. But there's also benefit to having it set out for you. So that's the big difference that I want to highlight between these two. I will say we've used this more simply because we do tend to be a little bit low prep, and we've gone through a season where we needed things to be very not teacher intensive. So this still requires a teacher, but it requires literally no preparation or no necessarily reading a whole extra book. And finding copywork from that, because you can just pick up this book and use it. So, but this is nice in that it kind of guides you through 4 years of work and tells you how to start. Okay, now start including copywork that features. Let's let that focus. Now we want to have copywork that's featuring questions and exclamations. Now we have copywork that's featuring prepositions, prepositional phrases. And different types of things. So now let me back up a little bit and explain, how is this writing curriculum supposed to work? The fundamental idea behind this is that you don't start kids with writing by telling them, hey, we just learned about dogs, now I want you to write a paragraph about dogs, or whatever you want, write about dogs. This is based on the idea that many kids are going to freeze, or they're going to struggle with that kind of idea of, okay, write an informational paragraph about cats, or write an informational paragraph about anything. A lot of kids also struggle with summary. This has a very high focus in the ability to summarize, and that comes through the narration practice. I did not realize that summary was difficult for many kids until I worked in after-school tutoring for high school students who weren't even necessarily struggling all that much. After-school tutoring is a very popular thing where we live. We live in a very academically aggressive, maybe, culture, which I like because I love academics and I love English. But I realized when I was tutoring high school students that they didn't know how to summarize very well. So I did learn from that actually for kids that it doesn't come naturally to, having practice in narration and summary can be very helpful. So in this book, you'll be able to see all the reading selections included right here. Some people could recommend you might want to read all of these books. I think that would be a lot of books to read at first grade in a year. I also think that they're kind of very similar books. They're all old. And I don't think I would choose my reading selections necessarily from this at all. I mean, some of these are some awesome books that I would definitely want to read to my kids. But reading all of these in first grade, I would not recommend it. And I would also recommend integrating newer books and books featuring different cultures and different types of stories, because a lot of these are fairly similar-ish and similar writing styles. I would want to, for actual reading, include different books. But it's fine if you're just doing your copywork or narration from small sections of these books. Nothing wrong with that. Then they have these patterns of, okay, week 1, your day 1 is copywork, then narration, then copywork, then narration. And you really just follow this pattern. Now what's included for you right here is copywork. I believe you don't have to do both sentences. You're supposed to do the one sentence that's more appropriate to your child's age level. I feel like most of the time we've done both sentences. And copywork is not really supposed to be something that's completely independent in this to get the most out of it. you're supposed to talk about the sentences maybe with your child as they write or after they write. Talk about, oh, here, look, it's a name. It's starting with a capital letter. Oh, look, the sentence is ending with a period. Oh, a day of the week. Of course, it's at the beginning of a sentence. Beginning of a sentence starts with a capital letter. We're ending with a period. Oh, look, we have a comma right there. There's the word and. It's connecting two parts of the sentence. Whatever you want to point out from the sentence or whatever the book tells you to point out from the sentence, you can do that. And this is the idea of teaching kids to write, not by starting on writing their own creative sentences, but on copying sentences, complete sentences other people have written. Then we have narration, which this is a more advanced one, so I'm going to go back a little bit. Okay, we'll go back to here. So then we have the narration, which you'll read a short passage from Caddy Woodlawn, and you're going to ask your child, what is one thing you remember about the passage? And that is after you've gone through some scripted questions talking about the story, talking about what you read in. Then you're going to ask, what is one thing you remember from the passage? And so at this point, you might not be getting a very good summary yet, but you're going to be gradually working towards that. You're just starting with what's one thing you remember. And we want to encourage children, to try to remember important things, because sometimes kids can latch on to really random things they remember. She was wearing a yellow dress. We don't want to necessarily discourage that, but that was 100% not the point of the passage. So we want to say, okay, yeah, she was wearing a yellow dress. Maybe what was important in the passage? What was it about? Not a random detail, because that can actually be very harmful to kids' ability to summarize. Is they zone in on random details rather than on the important message of the passage. That's not necessarily something that this book tells you to do. I'm just kind of adding a little bit of myself and how I would use this. Here is I do accept answers. I don't say it's wrong, but especially as kids get further on into it, I try to say, okay, yes, that happened, but what was the big idea? What was really important in this passage? And work on finding main ideas. So we do copywork, then we do narration. But when they narrate, you work on trying to get your child to tell you one full sentence, or depending on the exact day, maybe it's a 2 full sentences narration, some certain amount of sentences, and you write down the sentences that they say. And when you write it down, you can kind of show your child and make some comments on how you're writing, where you use a capital letter, where you end the sentence, where you might use a comma and an and to connect two ideas. Whatever features you're using in the sentence that they told you, you can point out how you write it. But you are doing the physical act of writing, not your child at the beginning. Then the next day we'll do copywork, and the copywork comes from the passage that they were read the day before. Oh, you can talk about, oh, here's a proper name for a town. It's beginning with a capital letter. A proper name for a state beginning with a capital letter. And then you have narration and copywork. You are reading probably a different passage from the same book, and this time you write down what your child says as their one thing that they remember from the passage. And now your student uses this as copywork for what you did. They use this as copywork, and they copy exactly what you wrote. And this isn't meant to be, again, something that you just hand to the child, but it is something that's discussed as you go through it. So kids aren't being intimidated by, oh, we read about Caddy Woodlawn, now you write about what you learned from this passage. That can be way too much for a first grader, but you can start scaffolding writing for your child by just giving them the experience of writing complete sentences, and then giving them the experience of seeing what they said summarized in a sentence, seeing you write it down, and then having the chance to copy down what they first spoke, now writing it themselves. So it's very slowly just building this very systematic skill. Now, I wouldn't say that all kids need this. I have known first graders that that can summarize very well. I have known first graders that can write creatively very well and put sentences, and it seems like they can just put sentences together almost naturally. Of course, they make grammatical errors. You can go over that. I think that this can be pretty boring for a child that writing comes more naturally to, but for the child that you know they're going to get easily overwhelmed or frustrated by writing, I would recommend Writing with Ease as a way to just get started, scaffolding this task of writing for your child. I'll show you a little bit of within the lessons, short passages that you read, discussing it in a scripted way with your student, asking the question, then you're doing the written narration. So it makes it easy. It makes writing a lot less intimidating because then your child is able to see, oh, look, we read that passage. I was able to find a way to summarize it, make one sentence about it or two sentences. So 2 sentences, and then I was able to copy that sentence that my parent wrote. And building that confidence, building the ability and the experience with simply writing sentences, even if they are not necessarily creative sentences or more ambitious at this time, because a lot of first graders won't be ready for creative writing, for open-ended writing assignments, or much at that point. It can be very intimidating when they are just getting down the mechanics of writing with a pencil, just getting down the basic mechanics of spelling. Spelling can be a huge thing that holds young kids back in writing because they don't know how to spell a lot of words. They have a lot of big ideas. They can talk to you, but they can't spell the words yet. So for some kids, they do not care, and they'll just, you know them when you know them. They'll just write anything and you have to figure out the spelling. But for a lot of kids, they get frozen by not being able to spell something. And this can really be a way that gets kids writing even when they don't have all the stepping stone skills for it yet. And this is a program that goes through multiple grade levels. You can go up to the next one, Writing with Skill, after taking your time working through all of these levels. All right, I hope that was a helpful look inside and understanding of what's the difference between these two and when you might want to use this.